Thank you for joining us for this joint committee with the Committee on, what's my committee? Public Safety, Intergovernmental, and Military Affairs. It's always a mouthful. And our good friends from the Committee on Water and Land on this Friday, not Friday, Monday, sorry. Still stuck on Super Bowl time. Monday, February 12th at 3 o'clock in room 225. This hearing is being streamed live on YouTube. If we have any kind of technical difficulties, we will post a notice as to when we're going to reconvene. And I will remind testifiers that we're going to limit your testimony to 1 minute for each individual testifiers. So on our first item, actually only item on this agenda, that is Senate Bill 3355 relating to law enforcement. First on our testifiers list is Jordan Lowe from DLE.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chairs, and members of the committee. My name is Jordan Lowe. I'm the director for the Department of Law Enforcement. I stand by our written testimony in strong support of SB 3355. I would like to emphasize, though, that there will be no effect on the protection of natural resources. Natural resources and conservation enforcement will remain DOCARE's paramount responsibility. No personnel will be moved or transferred, and their support of DL, NR, and other divisions will remain without any perceived bureaucracy. They will be a standalone agency within the Department of Law Enforcement with their command structure. We hope that this move will unify command for critical incidents, improve interoperability systems with our body cams and vehicle cams, with the DLE upgrades, to have a uniform CAD and RMS system amongst the divisions, provide them integration with our Office of Homeland Security and Real-Time Crime Center. And we plan to have uniform law enforcement policies and have DOCARE obtain their CLIA certification under the DLE umbrella. And when the transfer is complete, we will be requesting for CIP projects in the neighbor islands for DLE joint receiving offices with the Sheriff's Division and DOCARE. Thank you very much, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Director. Don Chan from DLNR.
Good afternoon, Senator Wakai, Senator Inouye, members of the Joint Committee. Don Chang, on behalf of Department of Land and Natural Resources, we stand in strong opposition to this bill. This is very unusual to have another department take such a strong position. But, and I've written a very detailed testimony why we do not support the transition. You know, for Department of Land and Natural Resources, our mission is the protection and preservation of our cultural and natural resources. Law enforcement is but one tool. Truly, in all due respect to the Department of Law Enforcement, you know, we see DOCARE as an integral part of DLNR. DOCARE is called when we have joint meetings of all the divisions. They participate as we're making rules. They are the first one to be called when we have a plane that's grounded in Kaneohe Bay. They are there to provide support. When a hiker is lost, they are there to provide support. When we've got issues related to iwi kupuna, the protection of traditional customary practices, DOCARE is there to help the department fulfill its mission. We are but one, there are only 48 states, well, let me put it this way, 48 states separate natural resources law enforcement function from state police functions and law enforcement. So there is precedent set around the country to support the separation of DOCARE from law enforcement. DOCARE maintains the resource management priorities. They work with our communities. We have Makai Watch, where they work with communities on self-enforcement. but they are an integral part of the fabric of DLNR. And I know that you have a lot here to, a lot others who want to provide testimony. So I stand on my written testimony, but we strongly oppose the transfer of DoCare to Department of Land Law Enforcement. I also have my staff here that many of them are going to provide their own testimony, but I'm available to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you very much. Mahalo.
Thank you, Director. Ed Underwood, Voting Division.
Good afternoon, Chair Wakai, Chair Noy, Vice Chair Lafante, committee members. Ed Underwood, I, as the Administrator of Division of Boating and Ocean Recreation, oppose this measure primarily because we have such a close working relationship with the Division of Conservation and Resource Enforcement. We're building substations out in our small boat harbors where we can, and we're really concerned that by DoCare transferring out of DLNR, that could affect that close working relationship that we have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian Nielsen from Aquatic Resources has submitted testimony in opposition. Kurt Cottrell, Parks Division.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. Kirk Cottrell, Administrator, Division of State Parks. You have my written testimony, but I do just want to emphasize a few other elements that I didn't put in detailed writing. We just spent the last year with a legal fellow working on a civil resource violation system, and we worked really closely with the Division of Conservation and Resource Enforcement to assure that what our fines are going to be and the methods by which the citations are issued are useful for our administrative rules and for deterring bad behavior. I'm a 33-year veteran of DLNR, and in those 33 years, we have forged, as Ed has said, a really strong working relationship. I get text messages from conservation resource enforcement officers on the weekends, particularly during like when tsunamis or hurricanes or illegal parties. And this working relationship we have cultivated, throughout our careers. So with all due respect to DLE, I don't think further centralizing law enforcement will do what is intended. In fact, I think the more general it becomes, like you saw in my testimony, we used to have game wardens, park rangers, forest rangers, and there's those of us that wish we still had those right in our park units that knew our rules, our resources, and our communities. So with that, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Cottrell. Who are you from DLNR? Has submitted testimony in opposition. Kate Thompson from Kama'aina Boaters.
Aloha, Senators and Chair. Some of it, I'm just meeting for the first time, and my name is Kate Thompson. I own a boat in the Hawai'i Boat Harbor and see daily kind of what goes on in the harbor. One, I do think that DoCare has the specialized qualities and things they do. They have a friendlier approach, more educational, and they're actually on the beach in harbors, which is really good. But in my case, I have a problem with the fact that DoCare is supposed to be giving citations for parking violations in the harbors, but they are not staffed for that. So last year, there were only 7 tickets issued for parking violations by DoCare, and 2,446 cars were towed from the harbor for minor parking violations. So in that way, I think that moving DoCare out of DLNR would give us the right to have normal citation process. And it's not enough to give it to the parking people because they give the tow people. And I really like to add one document. I just found out about this like 1 hour before it was due on Friday. But this compares the ticketing compared to towing throughout the state. And I think it should be a $35 ticket and not, thank you, and not a towing. I just want to say that the fuel dock is, I think, being considered for a special place for DoCare and other police officers. And I do think our harbor needs to keep a fuel dock because we have 700 slips, 699 plus working docks. So, it's really important for our harbor to, if they're going to put DoCare and other people there, that they give us a fuel dock or a fuel boat somewhere else. A nice meeting though. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a testimony from Olin Lemomi, Fisher, and Kevin Chang.
Aloha, my committee members. Olande Momi Fisher with Kua Aina Uluawamo, or Kua. And we support a large statewide network of Malama Aina, fish pond, and limu practitioners and organizations, hundreds of folks statewide. We strongly oppose this measure. Our community members work directly with DoCare. They're often the first communication that community members have with DLNR. And we feel that in the most recent years, DoCare has made significant improvements, and we just feel that this bill is unnecessary and would dilute DoCare's community-based natural resources protection. Thank you.
Denise Antolini from Malama Pupukea Waimea has submitted testimony in opposition. I believe on Zoom we have Margaret Halland.
I'm on Zoom if it's possible to speak.
Oh, hi Denise. Yes, please, go ahead.
Aloha, chairs, vice chairs, and committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Denise Antolini. I'm testifying in two capacities. One, as the volunteer president of Malama Pupukea Waimea on the North Shore of Oahu. We focused on the Pupukea Marine Life Conservation District. And also in my capacity as a former law professor, I've worked in both capacities with DoCare since 2005. Very closely, including on the design of the Academy for the new officers, on the Makai Watch program, which our organization has been a part of. I want to say three things. One, DoCare's mission is unique. It is not like other law enforcement agencies. Number two, because of you, because of the legislature, they are performing at the highest level I have seen them in the 2 decades I've worked with them. And third, I really think this bill is unnecessary. It's a lot like pulling up to a plant to see if it's growing and then shoving it back in the soil. It's really premature. Let DLE grow and follow its own pathway, but this is not the right time to push DoCare into a DLE. So appreciate the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Denise. We have via Zoom, Margaret Callahan.
Hello, thank you, Chair. Thank you, everyone, for seeing me. I would like to say that the safety of the harbors is very important to me as a boater and as a lot of youth and recreational people go there, and that DoCare can really offer that. I know they're stretched thin. I know that they only highly train their people. I know that if you call 911 and you're in the harbor, you're going to get the police, not DoCare. And then the police has to call DoCare and ask them if they want to respond immediately. So I'm not sure why Mr. Wadula is not here today to talk to you about the actual procedures, but I think that there probably is an incident command response procedural problem that's happening here, and more definition needs to be created for DoCare. And I know that DoCare does an amazing job. They really connect with the community and the environment. I wish that they could have a few lower paid people to be absolutely able to write citations for parking tickets. And that also gets law enforcement out there, on the street, walking around, meeting people, and having a look around to make sure there's not harmful homeless people around. So they've been amazing, and I hope that they stay with DLNR. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Margaret. Karen Boyer might be joining us via Zoom.
They're unavailable on Zoom, Chair.
Is there anyone else wishing to testify on Senate Bill 3355? If not, members, any questions? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I think I submit testimony. Written.
Yep, so
But
just
Clayton
for-
Kubo, Waimea Kauai, I strongly oppose this measure. Because DoCare is doing an excellent job on Kauai. Yep, they hired a whole bunch of guys and they hiring 4 more, positions this year. Awesome. I don't know about the other islands, but think about it. Mahalo nui.
Okay, Mr. Kubo, we have your testimony. Members, I have counted 30 in support and 16 individuals in opposition. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on Senate Bill 3355? Members, any questions? Yes, Senator Elifan.
Question for Director Lowe, please. Hi, a couple questions I have for you, Director. Thank you for your testimony. I believe you mentioned that there were 6 departments that were going to be transferred under Act 278. Which 6 departments would that be coming into DLE?
So right now, we have Narcotics Enforcement Division, we have the Criminal Investigation Division, we have the Sheriff's Division, we have the Office of Homeland Security.
Okay.
And the Office of Inspector General.
So DoCare is not involved in that 6?
No.
Not as contained in Act 278.
Correct.
And as a follow-up to that, have you reached out specifically to DLNR or DoCare about having conversations based on the discussion we're having today?
Via email, and I have in the past spoke with Chair Chang indicating that there might be interest in having DoCare come over to DLE.
And how recent was that?
I mean, this spanned probably throughout the year, infrequently, but throughout the year.
Okay.
Throughout the past year.
Okay. Thank you, Director. Thank you, Chair.
Members, any further questions?
Actually, I'm not on the committee, but I just had one. Thanks, Chair. We've been, I represent the windward side and Waimanal on the east side, where there's a lot of activity in the ocean. And for about the last 15 years or so, the community's been building a relationship with DoCare, who's been pretty phenomenal and stepping up to the plate when there's been incidents and things like that. And it's been an issue of building trust all those years. And now there's like a really solid partnership. But those very same people in the community are incredibly loath to speak to more traditional law enforcement about anything for a whole lot of reasons. And there's just not trust there. If DoCare is moved, how does that not jeopardize, I guess, the partnership that has been built all this time, and that trust that's there in the community with DoCare, but not with others?
Because they would still be their own standalone division within DLE. In other words, they're not going to be part of the Sheriff's Division. They'll still be DoCare, but just under the management of a law enforcement agency because of their law enforcement functions. But what will happen is then they would also be more integrated with, our Criminal Investigation Division, our, Narcotics Enforcement Division, if there were any incidents that came up where we would have to cross over jurisdiction. And they work regularly with the Sheriff's Division now anyway. So, but that's how we would maintain that integrity of their division.
As far as hiring goes, I know they've been, over the years, specifically hiring folks from the natural resources or sort of environmental background to bring in to do some of that, so they don't have this whole slate of education. Is the hiring process going to be separate as well?
The hiring process will be the same, but it will probably be under DLE's HR division.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. You and I have had discussions in the last several days with regards to this bill. And I've kind of taken a hard look at how we proceed going forward, as well as the work that's been done. I have been in this position as chair for Water and Land. This is our third year, or second year coming on, third year actually. And previously in the early 2000s when I was here for 10 years in the same position. So with the absence of not being with my dear friend, it's Sniffin there for the last 7 years or 8 years in transportation, upon my taking over as chair of Water and Land, we've come a long way in the last 3 years. All of the communications, the visitation with my staff and I to get acquainted with all of the agencies at DLNR. It's a huge agency. And with DoCare, what we've seen was the work that they do, but the lack of personnel. And so we worked tirelessly, and I'm so happy that our money committees on both House and the Senate was able to beef up dole care as we see today, and many more being trained. I have in particular, and I think I shared that with you, because for the Hilo, the Big Island is being beefed up as well. And I think I shared with you as well, and with the director, Jason, is that the Hilo facility has kind of outgrown its place. The building is pretty much being held up by termites. And we've had an overcrowdedness of personnel because we were so blessed to have the many new recruits into the Big Island. And so it's pretty much similarly to what your responsibility is for DLE. You got a new group of personnel as well trying to organize. And so it's with something like this, it seems like the work that we have been doing is like poof, okay. I don't think that dole care will actually, you've heard the testimony from the agencies that work well with dole care. I've also had some concerns about the Hawai'i statutes, the HRSs, that guides the agency, dole care, in addressing their mission. They have a mission. But I'm kind of happy that you did indicate that you would keep it separate. But I don't know if that will work. The togetherness of the agencies that make up DLNR has come a long way as well. And they've been suffering over the many years with vacancies and our lack of contributions from the legislature as well to address our parks, our beaches, everything, the forestry, small boat harbors, and dole care, and many others that seems like out there doing the job for the people of the state. So it's difficult at this point in time for me personally as the chair of Water and Land for the work we've been doing the last couple of years, you know, to see the agency be removed from DLNR. As you've already heard, it's enormous. These guys work so well hand in hand, not only in DLNR, but the other agencies like DOT, and all the three agencies within DOT, the harbors, the airports, the highways, have all used the expertise, and the coordination has been so well grounded. So it seems like on top of that, that's in your plate, you're still looking for a place to get organized. And so I think, you know, with my colleague here as well, that manage your agency under his purview, would also like to see you succeed. And you've done well in the last couple of years just to get organized. So I think it's a little too early to kind of, because you're not settled. To me, I think it's there is probably, it will contribute to you being organized in your agency. And I think the legislature agrees with the Attorney General as well, and all the agencies that have organized DLE need some time to probably get settled, make sure that you complete the responsibilities for those agencies that have been included under your WOW. So that's something that is a little troublesome for me as chair of Water and Land at this point in time. You never know what happens as DLE succeeds in the coming years. But I think perhaps having to do this now, I think kind of throws my staff and I in a quandary as well, because I have a mission and we're not finished yet with what DoCare will do for the people and their mission, and working with the new administration as well. So I just wanted to kind of share that with you again. And so with that said, Mr. Chair.
I have a couple of comments. So I liked the initial idea of operational efficiencies, right? That, okay, DoCare is kind of about enforcing the law, so maybe it would sit nicely in DLE. But when you look at the language of this bill, it's very simplistic, right? Just slash, 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 and then move. I mean, I think DLNR's testimony is very compelling about, they bring up 5 very salient points as to why it's probably premature to go the route of moving all of their DoCare officers into your area of jurisdiction. And what I find is a little bit troublesome is it's like we're seeing like brother and sister fighting here. This should not have, I think, come to, you guys should have worked it out in your cabinet meetings. And whatever you could have pared away that Don Chang said was agreeable, move over there. But it seems like you might have informed her, but it's not like she ever agreed to what you wanted to do. So perhaps maybe in the next year, as you get your footings and grounding together since you're a brand new entity, then maybe next year, and then talk with your counterpart in DLNR as to what makes sense to be moved over, and come up with a bill that's a little bit more substantial here with clear guidelines as to what responsibilities will stay in DLNR and what responsibilities you're taking on, because this bill doesn't outline any of it, just kind of slash slash add here, and pretty much that's it. So the 2 chairs have conferred before this hearing, and it's okay to say that our decision is to defer action on this measure. Hopefully, brother and sister will get together and come up with something nice that we can all be proud of. Both be proud of next year.
No, I appreciate everybody's comments, and yeah, and there's no animosity between the 2 directors. I mean, with Chair Chang and I, I just looked at it as I'm trying to build a framework of DLE for the future. And that's what I'm trying to establish as we move through this process. But thank you.
We want to see both of you successful.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for adjourn.
Good afternoon. The committees on Water and Land, Public Safety and Intergovernmental and Military Affairs, and the Committee on Transportation and Culture and the Arts is proceeding with its agenda on February 12th at 3 p.m. This is with regards to SB 2088. And just to add the housekeeping announcements, that those on Zoom land, we will be allowing you a minute for your testimony. And for those here, if you can stand on your testimony in support as well. And we'll hopefully get through this day. We do have another hearing as well. And we'd like to welcome you all this afternoon. Okay. SB 2088, and this is relating to vegetation management. It makes appropriation to DLNR and the Department of Transportation for vegetation management projects to reduce the risks of wildfires across the state. DLNR. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chair, members of the committee. DLNR stands on its testimony and support and is here for any questions.
Well, hello. Thank you.
Ryan Kanakole, DLNR.
Hawaii Forest Industry Association. In support, Hawaiian Electric, or HECO. Sense Communication in support, Hawaii IMI, I think, is here as well.
Aloha, Chair, Vice
Is
Chair.
that HECO? Is that you on Zoom?
Yeah, this is Hawaiian Electric. My
Okay, is that
apologies.
Dave?
Yeah.
All right, proceed.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chairs, and members of the committee. My name is Dave Nagata, Hawaiian Electric Company. Standing by a written testimony in strong support of Senate Bill 2088. Thank you.
Okay, mahalo. Hawaii, Haema. Anyone here representing them? They sent communications in support. Okay, is there anyone present who wishes to speak to SB 2088? Okay. DOT.
Hello, chairs, vice chairs, members. Ed Sniffen with Hawaii DOT. Apologize for our late testimony, but we're in strong support of this bill. For DOT, we understand how limited general funds are this legislative session specifically, and totally understand if funding cannot be pushed towards this effort. I would just say to this committee that the DOT will still move forward with its own funds using the governor's emergency proclamation to continue emergency vegetation management throughout. But we would appreciate consideration on this as it would help us move forward faster. Thank you.
Okay, why don't you, Ed, why don't you remain because you're the last two members. Any questions of any of the testifiers? Okay, I have something to share as well. HECO, Dave, are you still on? If I remembered, HECO's testimony was related to the highways. And I can see that because of the utilities that are situated more on the roadsides. But interesting though, that like Hawaii County, and I think that's probably part of when they approve buildings, any construction, in particular residentials, and you know, I guess condos, apartments. Part of their rules coming out of public works is that any residents or any buildings that are abutting a highway or frontage, that it's borne upon the resident to make sure that they keep their properties well. So they're supposed to be mowing their own parcels, part of the property that abuts highways and whatever. And do you know if there's any other counties that do that? But I do know that we need enforcement though on County of Hawaii, because some do a heck of a good job maintaining their properties, but they are lacking. And so maybe we should be also working with the counties to enforce those measures if they have similar rules or application process.
Agreed. I think prior to the line event, there wasn't a lot of emphasis on those different types of enforcement. Since then, we've been working with all county fire departments and counties and emergency management to ensure that we identify the priority areas. And when we hit those priority areas, we work with the landowners that we're clearing or abutting to ensure that they continue to keep the vegetation low. Then the counties get involved to ensure the enforcement is upheld in those areas.
Well, you know, this is going to add to a lot of resources, you know, and as well. So I was just hoping that there's some communications with the counties.
Absolutely.
You know, and Public Works and the mayors to participate in this as well, you know, because I know, I think even HECO recently in the last several years, I mean, you know, they've been, I guess, HECO, how do you manage your arrangements with counties? Because I know there've been a lack of tree trimming around even your area. Is that your responsibility, or you hire contractors to clear your areas around your poles?
For areas where we have easements, we either do the trimming ourselves or we hire contractors. But with respect to your question as it relates to city or state roadways,
Right.
that would be the, if it's in the road right away, that would be the
Counties.
roadway owners'
Okay.
responsibility.
Okay. Because it seems like maybe because of the weather, but we're supposed to be in a drought, but there's a lot that has not been upkept, I think. And I'm not sure how it is here on Oahu, but we're pretty much, trees are growing out through your utility poles nonetheless. But, you know, the enforcement rests with you.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, all right. Any questions of DOT? Hearing none?
I have
Okay.
a follow-up.
Yes.
You know, DOT.
Senator Fukunaga.
DOT's role in a lot of the roadways has been identified as, you know, really very helpful in instances where DOT has been able to harness community partners, you know, in working to address vegetation overgrowth kinds of issues. And I know that one of our colleagues on the windward side had done a really well-publicized activity which involved replanting trees, you know, along a particular highway area. One thing that has been somewhat problematic in the urban areas is that many of the lands that are affected are DLNR lands, and often DLNR does not have adequate resources to manage the overgrowth. Are there ways that DOT's, I guess, federal grants and other highways programs might offer us opportunities to work with community partners in ways that are similar to what was done on the windward side, but perhaps on a smaller scale in, you know, heavily forested areas in urban Honolulu, say Kalihi Valley, Tantalus, you know, Halava, Aiea, et cetera, where we have many of the same kinds of problems, but very difficult to address them.
Yeah, so the federal grants, we were trying to extend as much as possible, and our federal partners are trying to help us as well. Really, in general, from their perspective, if it's not on the federal aid system, federal funds couldn't be pushed towards it. So all of the work that we had done outside of the right of way were all state funded. And we're happy to extend those state funds to different areas to improve things, especially from a safety perspective for the communities. One of the big things that we've seen from this emergency in Lahaina, we all were conditioned in our emergency response to go mauka on everything, because storm surge was the risk for all of us, flooding and the like. And going mauka works except for when fire situations occur. Fully understanding that there's a lot of communities that we have that have one way in, one way out, or limited access. We know that building roads takes a long time, but reducing fuel, putting in fire mitigation, and potentially cutting in emergency access routes for different communities can be done very, very quickly, especially with the emergency proclamations that we have in place. So happy to talk story more to see how we can help your community.
Thank you. Okay. Any further questions? Hearing none. Chairs, we have a recommendation already, if you agree, then we don't need to. Now I need one person, but we can make the recommendations and you guys can go ahead and take the votes, and we'll hopefully get our, anyway. Okay, for the joint triple committees, chairs have recommended that we pass SB 2088 with amendments, which will just be defecting the date to July 1st, 2050. Okay, for the Committee on Water and Land, any discussions? Hearing none, Vice Chair for the vote on SB 2088, the Committee on Water and Land with amendments. Chair votes aye.
Okay, Chair's recommendations to pass SB 2088 with amendments. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Chang. Senator McKelvey is excused. Senator Favela.
Aye.
Madam Chair, recommendations adopted.
Thank you.
For PSM, same recommendation. Any discussion? If not, Senator Elefante, I vote yes.
Chair's recommendations to pass SB 2088 with amendments. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Fukunaga.
Aye.
Senator Rhodes. Senator Wah. Mr. Chair, recommendations adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Committee on Transportation, Culture and Arts on SB 2088, same recommendation to pass with amendments. I'll vote aye. Vice Chair?
Aye.
Senator Elafante?
Aye.
Senator Kanuha?
Aye.
And Senator Awa?
Aye.
Thank you. Adopted.
Okay, thank you very much. This concludes then the triple committee, Waterland, PSM, and TCA. Aloha.
Thank you for joining us for this joint committee
Bless
on
you.
public safety. Huh? Oh, IT, we good?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay. Again, we are convening the joint committees on public safety, intergovernmental, and military affairs, and our good friends from the Committee on Transportation, Culture, and the Arts. This is Monday, February 12th at 3:01 in conference room 225. We have one item or a number of items on this agenda. The first one is Senate Bill 2230 relating to fireworks. First on our testifiers list is Kazuo Todd from the State County Fire Council. Might be joining us via Zoom.
Good afternoon, Chair Wakai, Chair Lee, members of the Joint Committee. This is Gary Lum. I am testifying on behalf of Kazuo Todd and the State Fire Council. And we're testifying in strong support of this measure. You have our written testimony, and thank you very much.
Thank
Be
you,
available
Gary.
for questions.
Sure. Danielle Pert from Phantom Fireworks.
Afternoon, chairs, members of the committee. Mike Yosua on behalf of Phantom Fireworks. We submitted a written testimony in opposition, just to point out a couple things. First, that consumer fireworks, there's no real data to show that there's any material increase in fires during this period where consumer fireworks are allowed. And second off, local people love their firecrackers. If you ban this now, it's just going to move to the black market. I think right now the illegal fireworks task force is doing a good job focusing on the big exploding bombs and the flares and that kind of stuff. And we don't need to add anything else in the ban right at this point. So we hope that you'll defer this measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Brian Trim from American Promotional Events.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committees. Myung-Oh here on behalf of TNT Fireworks in opposition. You have our written testimony. Just want to point out a few additional facts is that the black market has been continuing to increase and has never gone down over the many years. I think that given the ban and creating a firecracker contraband will only spur further black market enterprise. And so that we ask the committees to hold this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Myung. Tina Yamaki from Retail Merchants might be joining us via Zoom.
Aloha, and I apologize. I'm having some technical difficulties today, but we respectfully oppose this bill. Hawaii is so steeped in Asian culture, and during New Year's, we use fireworks to ward off evil spirits and, wish good luck throughout the year. And we understand the intent of this measure and why this legislation is kind of called for, but we also are looking more at the Hawaii aerial fireworks and the illegal fireworks. Those are the ones that we are seeing that are being put off from Thanksgiving, late at night, early in the morning, all times, even when they're not supposed to be because they're illegal. We also understand that it's going to be a little hard to enforce. And maybe look at the fireworks task force that was created last year and making sure that they have the tools and laws to enforce these laws on all these illegal fireworks coming in. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. And I believe we have Gary Lum on Zoom on 2230. Is there Gary Lum?
Hi, Chair. Yeah, this is Gary Lum again from the State Fire Council.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I testified earlier, and considering the recent events in Lahaina, if we want to get serious about reducing the potential for ignition sources for both building fires and wildfires, you're going to have this discussion on reducing the consumer use of firecrackers. Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to testify on Senate Bill 2230? Hi, Angela.
Chair. Aloha, Chair Lorraine, and the other chairs and the committee. Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of WAR, Rescue of Animal Rights. So in strong support of this measure, pyrotechnics cause extensive environmental pollution in a short amount of time. With particles exploding into the oxygen we breathe, it causes dangerous toxic environmental hazards. When ignited, the materials produce particles and gases, which contribute to pollution. From earth.org, society has a growing desire to set off and watch explosives for the sake of entertainment and celebratory purposes. According to the American Pyrotechnics Association, consumer fireworks, which are low hazard and used for recreational purposes, reached a consumption of 416.3 million pounds in the United States in 2021. Reflecting also upon things that happened to Hawaii's birds in the 2000s, from a beach in Kailua, a few days after the New York fireworks display, hundreds of birds were found deceased on Kailua Beach, and the birds were minor birds and Java sparrows. We must protect Hawaii and the birds from fireworks and set standards to limit explosives to cultural practices only. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Angela. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on Senate Bill 2230? If not, members, any questions? Yes, Senator Fukunaga.
I guess this would be directed to retail merchants.
Tina, still there?
Yes.
Okay, I know that bans are typically very hard to enforce and it's almost impossible to manage. One approach that other jurisdictions have pursued is making the permit fees and the cost of these allowed fireworks types of products much, much higher, to support greater enforcement and regulation of these kinds of products. Would retail merchants be supportive of just making the fees far greater rather than an outright ban?
I would have to go back and ask some of my guys, but anytime you hike it up, yeah, the cost goes up. And what happens then is the customers are not going to come to the stores to buy these things. They're going to go to the illegal black market, which what they're doing now for the aerials and the bombs and the bottle rockets and things like that. Right now there is a permitting process where people have X amount of fireworks that they can buy. I think the problem is basically all of these illegal fireworks that we've been seeing, because these are the ones that have been going off prior to holidays, or even last night. I live in Mililani. People were throwing off bottle rockets and stuff like that. I mean, how do you stop that, and how do you enforce that, and how do you stop the illegal fireworks for coming in?
Okay, good point. Thank you.
Imagine if the 49ers won, would be even more. Anyone else with questions? Yes.
Just one, thanks. For Phantom. Thanks. You'd mentioned that there wasn't data available, but just reading the testimony from the Fire Council, they cite not just data, but Hawaii incidents from this past year, where EMS responded to 8 incidents, including eye injuries, serious burns. 6 out of the 8 cases resulted in permanent disfigurement involving loss of limbs and eyesight, with an age range of victims from 6 years old to senior citizens. A fatal head injury last year from fireworks, 5 deaths in the last decade. And just this past year, 23 fireworks-related fires, New Year's Eve, and 8 the year before.
I don't have the data in front of me, but my understanding is those aren't directly related to the consumer fireworks. We don't disagree that there are injuries and fire, but they're related to the illegal aerials, the flares, the bombs, those kinds of things. The sparklers and the firecrackers, I don't think there's any data that shows that those injuries or the fires were related to those to the consumer fireworks.
Thanks. And Chair, just following up with the Fire Council.
Oh, Gary, are you still there? Gary Long.
Yes.
Oh,
wait,
Yeah,
thanks
yeah,
very much.
Yes, sir.
Hey, just following up on the discussion we've been having just here, that most of the injuries and other things are not attributable to, I guess, regular fireworks. Is that, you didn't break it down in your testimony, but is there a distinction there?
When we talk to the county fire departments who respond to these incidents, they're not able to isolate or break out illegal versus legal fireworks cause injuries and fires. But I can tell you, for myself, I retired from the Honolulu Fire Department after 30 years. And personally, I responded to at least a dozen firecracker-related incidents in my career.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Sure. Any further questions? I had a question for Michael Vincent. Sorry, I know you didn't testify on this measure, but this committee has passed a number of fireworks-related bills this session, one of which was to task force, and then you've asked for more money to go and do seizures of fireworks. And I think we could all agree that this past year was quieter. I mean, not totally quiet, but quieter than previous years. Do you imagine that with the new powers and the new resources that we're giving you, that you're going to take care of a lot of the angst that the public feels about aerial fireworks?
The illegal fireworks task force is continuing to work.
So is that a yes or no?
They are being successful, yes.
And with more resources, you're going to be more successful.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? If not, thank you, members. We're going to move on to the next measure, Senate Bill 2731, relating to special license plates for Iraqi and Afghanistan war veterans. On our testifiers list, we have Carlos from the Veterans Caucus of the Democratic Party has submitted testimony support, Mike Golochu and El Basha, individuals both in support. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on Senate Bill 2731? Angela.
Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of CARES, in strong support. So according to combatwounded.org, and I'm going to recite it verbatim from the website so you can know that I'm reciting accurate information and not data being made up. There are more than 2.5 million post 9/11 military veterans that have served our nation. A majority of them were overseas in combat zones. Over 2 million served overseas. A little half of these veterans are under 30s, and 22 veterans commit suicide every day, with one occurring roughly every 80 minutes. The number is higher for special forces, and there are vets that have disabilities, and to demonstrate support to our war veterans, it'd be good to set a measure with standards and provisions to get a commemorative placard as a sign of the value of our honor to veterans. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Anyone else wishing to testify on Senate Bill 2731? Okay. Members, any questions for Angela? No? Okay, I'm going to hand it over to my illustrious co-chair, Senator Lee.
Thank you very much. It's glad to be here with the Public Safety Committee. Moving on to Senate Bill 2443, relating to highway safety, which establishes the Automated Speed Enforcement Systems Program. Testifying first is the Department of Transportation.
Members, and citizens that support it.
Thank you. We also have testifier signed up from the Office of Public Defender. Oh, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committee, Deputy Public Defender Alan Nakao on behalf of the Office of the Public Defender. Our office is testifying in opposition to this bill. Note that not only standing on our written testimony, when looking at the way in which this particular speed enforcement bill, what it seeks to gain, first, there's already been a history of similar automated speed enforcement, and the state took the position that it wasn't working for us. Part of that because of the vendor it was using. Part of it is the discretionary powers that go with that. One is that law enforcement is required to take a second look at the citations that the automated speed enforcement vendors use. But it does remove the ability to create a stop. It cannot be used in any other way. The holding of that data is restricted and can't be used for other purposes. And looking at it as a deterrent, that portion is removed because the motorist may not even be the person involved. It's sent to the registered owner. So we do believe there's due process issues. So I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. That's everyone who signed up to testify. Is there anyone else here wishing to testify in this measure? Let's come forward. Good afternoon.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and the committees. Angela Melody Young testifying this time on behalf of Kapalama Neighborhood Security Watch. Wishing to comment. So as a volunteer safety coordinator, we have to deal with erratic driver behavior and the safety of intersections, especially near Kapalama Elementary School. So it's been interesting to study this. So the automated speed enforcement programs are red light safety programs, or the intersections with the cameras, which catches those who are running the lights to deter traffic fatalities. And you want to rub your eye, right? When you drive by these intersections, like, whoa, is this real? And we have these in Hawaii now. In other jurisdictions, this system has been proven reliable, efficient, and effective in identifying and deterring violators. In New York City, the number of violations issued has declined by over 75% since inception. Crashes at signalized intersections have declined. And in Honolulu, the pilot program was implemented in November 2022 for Palama and Liliha and went live for citations and warnings. By 2023, a series of other intersections also went live. So we want to really support further collaboration and encourage state and city collaboration. This was a state and city partnership. If you look at the chapters which are being amended with this measure before us and the Act 131 from Senate Bill 663 from 2019, which formed the committee to conduct a report to advise the pilot program. The proposal was from the county administration from Mayor Belangiardi.
I could ask you to summarize.
Okay. The committee was a collaboration of the county and state transportation and judiciary and police departments. And then it was authorized the next year by Act 30. And so we're in strong support to further legally authorize the operations of the pilot program. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else wishing to testify in this measure? All right, if not, are there questions? All right, rowdy bunch today. Well, with that, let's move on then to the next measure on the agenda. SB 2832 relating to the traffic code, which specifies that counties may issue traffic infractions for various violations. And testifying first, 2832 is Department of Transportation.
Chair's duty stands in support.
Thank you. That's all the members we had signed up to testify. Is there anyone else here wishing to testify in this measure? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Kate Thompson. I have a laminated sheet, but I think that violations for parking and traffic, whether then they're under HARs or Hawaii revised statutes or within departments, I think they need to be equalized among departments. So for instance, parks and recreation and harbors, airports, and these sort of things need to be equalized, and that no certain place should go to immediate towing. Now at the U.S. Post Office in Waikiki, they have immediate towing, and also at the harbor. But these are recreational lands, and I think we need to look at more at enforcement of parking regulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in this measure? If not, other questions? Senator Elefante.
Thank you, Chair. Question for DOT, please, Director Sniffen. The only question I have is, what if a motorist is like rendering aid to someone that may be involved in a collision? You know, they would be standing or stopping. Would that be impacted by this proposal?
I don't believe so. When I look at the laws, discretion is always allowed to the police officer who's on scene. And I've not seen any officer concerned about those kinds of situations.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Vice Chair.
Yes.
I remember previously I spoke to you about to me, I thought there were violations of those that were homeless that were stopping and standing on highways, particularly on the Big Island. I don't know if it's true here, but they're very active in the Hilo area. I understand peddling, and they're right there where the traffic lights are, and it's on the bayfront in Hilo, the airport intersection, right there, and I think it's dangerous. Can we add, instead of only vehicles, that we could look at live persons? Or I'm not sure how peddling would prohibit us from anything that has to do with the homeless persons, but we talked about that, and I'm not sure if there's anything already in the books.
So to your question, the DOT would not object to adding language that would improve safety throughout the corridor, that would add
It's
persons.
horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, they're there, and I understand. Someone told me that reason they go there, and it's every day and every night. And I'm afraid that one day someone may run into them because they're at the intersections. And similarly to that accident that we had at Kaka'ako, you remember that drunken driver that was there? But, I think, anything can happen. So I am just wondering, who's the introducer of this measure? But, just to share that with you, and I'm not sure if you folks want to tackle this situation, but it's pretty prevalent every day and night. And they're just standing there saying they're hungry. And they're healthy looking guys. And the women are there too. And I'm so, afraid that when upon them and I'm stuck at the traffic light, that somebody may just come one day and plow into them. But that's a big issue.
Absolutely. Totally understand. And a lot of other places as well. When our inspectors observe people in right-of-ways that are dangerous, we report it to the police and they help us out in enforcing those areas or moving people along.
Yeah, but someone told me that they can't enforce it because they're not sure if it's in the HRS or if there's a law prohibiting peddling.
That I'm not sure of, but the DOT would not object to any additions of language in here that
vehicles
improve safety.
I'm not sure what the language would be, but it's pretty bad in Hilo.
Senator Wakai.
Most of us on this side of the table don't enjoy sign waving. So if this were to be put into effect, could DOT say there's no more peddling or sign waving and then relinquish us from having that responsibility?
I don't think that's in this bill but let me check again to make sure.
But the standing on the side of the road, on the county road, parking our volunteers' cars along the side of the road.
Yeah, it could be.
That's a way for us to stop. I'll let the chair of the committee mull over that one.
Okay, any further questions? If not, thank you, everybody. Let's move on to the next measure. Senate Bill 3135 relating to parking for disabled persons, which authorizes the examiner of drivers to suspend the driver's license of a person using a parking permit issued to a deceased person and so forth. Testifying first on 3135 is the State Council on Developmental Disabilities. In support, Disability and Communications Access Board. Good afternoon.
Chair Lee and Wakai and committee members, Brian Nick from the Disability and Communication Access Board here on behalf of the Executive Director Kirby Shaw. This is our bill. We are in support. I'll stand on the written testimony, but I did want to address the issue raised by HPD in their testimony, which was how would they know who a placard was issued to if that person was deceased. So the short answer is the enforcement agencies do have the ability to access our database Just similarly, how the issuing agencies at the counties of the placards also are able to enter data into our database. We do have a specific permission level for the enforcement agency, so they're not able to see any of the disability-related information to a permittee, but they're able to see their basic information and their permit log, so all the permits that has been issued to them and the status of those permits. What we do at our office annually is we do a cross-check with the Office of Vital Records, and they usually flag about 4,200 records of placards that are active but issued to people that are now deceased. And we go in and manually change the status of those placards to show that they belong to the deceased person, making them invalid for use. So theoretically, any of the enforcement agencies should be able to look up the status of a placard that they encounter, and then if they saw that it had been issued to a deceased person, would be able to issue a citation under this new section.
Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
Also have testimony from Retail Merchants of Hawaii.
Okay, aloha, I'm here. We stand in support of this measure. Retailers, we are seeing a lot of abuse by ADA place cards being borrowed by friends and family members to get parking closer to the entrance of the mall or their favorite store, or when, there's a lot of sales going on and parking is at an all-time high. And currently there is no enforcement going on with these stalls. So we support this measure. Mahalo.
Thank you. That's everyone who signed up to testify. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in this measure?
Aloha chairs, vice chairs, and the committees. Angela Melody Young testifying on behalf of CARES. So apparently people have the audacity to take a dead individual's disability pass. The purpose of this measure is to create a policy to correct those who are displaying a disability parking permit of someone who was dead at the time of display. When a person is disabled and someone takes a parking pass, this measure will make sure that it's illegal now by law. So if we want to know the proper procedure, let's go to Hawaii Administrative Rules, HAR Chapter 11-219-8, the return of a disability parking permit. So what is the appropriate action? Okay, the removable windshield placard, temporary removable windshield placard, and identification card are the property of the issuing office and shall be returned to the office upon the death of an individual with a disability. So the lesson with this measure is to help persons learn never to do that again. You're creating societal effects in the culture of others relating to disabled people when you take a dead individual's disability pass. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, chairs and vice and senators. I actually wrote on this, but I didn't submit it. I would be supportive of this bill, and I have some experience with it. My mom was handicapped here in Hawaii, and we had a handicap sticker, and her sticker was actually stolen out of her handicap van because it's like so valuable. And that was really shocking. And then, but I was thinking, how they have a gun buyback program. I'm wondering if there could be like $100 buyback for a handicap sticker, and then people would be more likely to turn it back in rather than use it. I also experienced being frustrated once at Ala Moana. I just went around to all the handicap stalls and I couldn't find one that had the access aisles so my mom could use her little electric wheelchair to get out. And and also at the harbor, I noticed that some people have a handicap sticker that live in the nearby hotels, and they come to the handicap spot and they're there 24 hours. It's their personal parking, and so therefore it's not used properly. So another thing to think about is making like a 4-hour limit in certain recreational areas for handicap stalls use so that it can move along. But I definitely think
summarize.
Yeah, summarize is just that. Yes, there should be fines, but maybe make it more like an incentive thing rather than a criminal thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in this measure? If not, are there questions? If not, what I'm hearing is we're almost done here. Just real quick. So do you guys get follow-up when HPD catches people that are doing this sort of thing? Do they come back to you?
Sometimes we become aware of it, they'll actually return the placards to us for disposal and there'll be a note that it was confiscated. So that's usually how we know. And by the way, I just wanted to add, we don't just update the database when we discover that someone's deceased who had a permit. We also send out letters and postage paid envelopes to their estates asking for the placards back. Usually we get about 40% of the placards back that we ask for. I'm not saying 60% are being used. Probably the family just disposes of them on their own, but undoubtedly each year there's a couple hundred floating out there that did belong to the deceased.
So if Bernie's in the passenger seat and that's the weekend,
yeah,
still doesn't qualify. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the last bill on the agenda. Senate Bill 3242, that was for Danielle. Relating to transportation, which requires departments or county agencies responsible for roads, highways, or similar infrastructure to evaluate high-risk corridors and provides that an engineering study is not required to decrease maximum speed limits within 1 mile of a school. Testifying first is the Department of Transportation. Thank you. And that's everyone we had signed up to testify. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in this measure? If not, are there any questions? If not, all right, thank you. That's the end of our agenda. Let's recess for decision making. Recess.
Thank you for your patience. We are reconvening this joint committee hearing between the Public Safety and Intergovernmental and Military Affairs and our good friends from the Committee on Transportation, Culture, and the Arts for decision-making on the measures on this 301 agenda. First is Senate Bill 2230 relating to fireworks. The two chairs have conferred, and considering all the testimony we heard about the creation of a potential black market and the fact that DLE is doing fantastic work in addressing some of the angst that the community has towards fireworks, we'd like to defuse this bill, so to speak, and defer any action. For this next measure, Senate Bill 2731 relating to special license plates for Iraqi and Afghanistan war veterans. The two chairs have conferred, and we'd like to honor those who have sacrificed their and provided for services to all of us and the freedoms that we enjoy. I would like to pass this measure out as is. Any discussion? If not, Senator Elefante, I vote yes.
Chair's recommendations to pass SB 2731 as is. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Fukunaga.
Aye.
Senator Rhodes.
Aye.
Senator Awa.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, recommendations adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Committee on Transportation, Culture, and the Arts, same recommendation.
Okay. Chair's recommendation to pass unamended SB 2731. Chair Lee.
Aye.
Vice Chair goes aye. Senator Elefante.
Aye.
Senator Kanuha.
Aye.
Senator Awa.
Aye.
Okay, measure is adopted, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next measure on our agenda, SB 2443 relating to highway safety, which establishes the automated speed enforcement system. We'd like to move this forward, making a couple amendments. So first, we're going to adopt DOT's language, which would extend the lapse date of the fiscal 25 appropriation to June 30th, 2026. Secondly, appropriate as an emergency appropriation and according language, a blank appropriation as this goes to the Ways and Means Committee. And then we'll limit the initial speed enforcement locations to no more than 10 school zones, tech amendments, and a defective date. Any discussion? If not, Vice Chair.
Okay, Chair's recommendation on SB 2443 on the Committee of TCA with 5 members present. Any voting with reservations? Any no votes?
No.
Measure is adopted, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you.
For PSM members, the same recommendation. Any discussion? If not, Senator Elefante, I vote yes.
Okay, Chair's recommendations to pass SB 2443 with amendments of the 5 members present. Any no votes?
No vote.
No vote for Senator Awa. Any votes with reservations? Hearing none, Mr. Chair, recommendations adopted.
Thank you. Moving on to Senate Bill 2832 relating to the traffic code, which specifies that counties may issue traffic infractions for violations of laws prohibiting restricting and stopping, standing, parking of vehicles on highways and county property. And we'd like to move this forward, making a couple amendments as well. We'd like to amend this by authorizing the DOT and counties to prohibit the stopping, standing, and parking restrictions and prohibitions under the jurisdiction of the Director of Transportation, the counties, but striking property. So this would broaden what is possible and doing so in the interest where it's for safety and preventing distractions, and then adding in a defective date. Any discussion? If not, Vice Chair.
Okay, for the Committee on TCA, Chair's recommendation to pass SB 2832 with amendments, with 5 members present, any voting with reservations, any no votes.
No.
Measure is adopted, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
For PSM, same recommendation. Any discussion? If not, Senator Elefante, I vote yes.
Okay, Chair's recommendations to pass SB 2832 with amendments. Any no votes?
No.
No vote for Senator Wah. Any votes with reservations? Hearing none, Mr. Chair, recommendations adopted.
Thank you. Moving on to Senate Bill 3135 relating to parking for disabled persons, which authorizes the examiner of drivers to suspend the driver's license of persons using a parking permit issued to a deceased person. We'd like to recommend moving this forward, but with amendments, making tech amendments. Sounds like there's a couple typos in there that need to be fixed. That's it. Any discussion?
For the TCA Committee, Chair's recommendation is to pass SB 3135 with amendments, with 5 members present, any voting with reservations, any no votes. Okay, measure is adopted, Mr. Chair.
For PSM, same recommendation to pass this measure with tech amendments. Any discussion? If not, Senator Elefante, I vote yes.
Okay, Chair's recommendations to pass SB 3135 with amendments of all members present of PSM. Any no votes? Any votes with reservations? Hearing none, Mr. Chair, recommendations adopted.
Thank you. Moving on to the final bill on our agenda, SB 3242 relating to transportation, which requires departments or county agencies to identify high risk or dangerous corridors and take appropriate action. Recommendations to pass as is. Discussion? Not Vice Chair.
For the Committee on TCA, Chair's recommendation to pass SB 3242 unamended, with 5 members present, any voting with reservations, any no votes. Hearing none, Vice Chair, Chair, measure is adopted.
For PSM, same recommendation to pass this measure with amendments. Or as is. Any discussion? If not, Senator Elefante, I vote yes.
Okay, Chair's recommendation is to pass SB 3242 as is of the 5 members present. Any no votes or votes with reservations? Hearing none, Mr. Chair, recommendations adopted.
Thank you. Great to work with the PSM committee.
My pleasure.
We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience. We are now on the 302 agenda with the Public Safety and Governmental and Military Affairs. We have one measure on this agenda, that is Senate Bill 3147 relating to the Department of Law Enforcement. On our testifiers list, we have Michael Vincent from DLE.
Good afternoon. Michael Vincent, Deputy Director for Administration, Department of Law Enforcement. The department stands in strong support of this measure. Act 278 rather, combined the agencies and gave the director subpoena powers through the Narcotics Enforcement Division, but it's not there for the rest of the investigation and law enforcement powers of the director. And that's what this bill is for, is to expand that and clarify that it applies to other areas as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vincent. Someone from the Public Defender's Office?
Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is William Benta. I'm a Deputy Public Defender. Our office does oppose the bill as written. We do believe that there are some issues We understand the need for investigations. We understand the need for investigators to be able to speak to potential witnesses, but what we're concerned about is there are really no safety measures in place. If a person is issued a subpoena, they're compelled to show up. And if in doing so, they testify and get themselves into some sort of trouble, there really is no recourse for them. They're not allowed to have counsel. The statute which created the Public Defender's Office precludes us from helping those individuals that might be subpoenaed as witnesses under this measure, because for us to offer legal advice, a person has to at the very least be arrested. And so, you know, it's safe to say that anybody of means given a subpoena like this, they're going to show up with an attorney, the same way they do in Congress with the high-powered attorneys. Poor folks won't have that option. They can't call us for representation either. So they'll still be compelled to have to testify and make a decision for themselves as to whether they should testify, remain silent, or cooperate in some way with the subpoena. So we believe that if the committee wishes to pass this out, there needs to be some sort of measures that address these shortcomings. I just want the committee also to know this. If you wish to change the statute and say that the public defender should offer this help, you know, we're more than willing to help anybody that needs it, but we are very short-staffed, and this would open up a whole nother area where we would be required to offer legal representation. So we would have to ask that resources be offered as well for us. Thank you very much. I'm willing to answer any questions.
Thank you, William. Ellen Carson has submitted testimony in support. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in Senate Bill 3147? If not, members, any questions? Okay, we're going to take a very brief recess prior to taking the vote. Thank you for your patience. We're reconvening the Public Safety and Intergovernmental and Military Affairs for our 302 agenda for decision making. I'd like to give DLE the full powers to be able to effectively investigate bad things going on in our community. So we'd like to pass this measure out, Senate Bill 3147, with technical non-substantive amendments. Any discussion? Senator Infante, I vote yes.
Chair's recommendations to pass SB 3147 with amendments. Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Fukunaga.
Aye.
Senator Rhodes.
Aye.
Senator Wah.
No.
Mr. Chair, recommendations adopted.
Thank you, members, for your time. We're adjourned.